Hi, welcome to learningbricksacademy.com. My name is Bodhi Chakravarti, and today I'm going to present certain information about IELTS examination. I hope that you stay with me until the end, and it is going to be a very interesting session. Uh, there's only one prerequisite condition which I must impose to all my listeners over here. And the condition is that if there are any questions that comes to your mind, if it pops up in your mind, please feel free to type in that question in the comment box. I may not answer it the moment it appears in front of me, but I will ensure that I'm going to answer that question as soon as this session comes to an end. So before we wrap it up for today, I'm going to answer all your questions one by one. Okay. So with that in mind, please feel free to raise your questions, ask your questions. Please do not spam the chat box. That is what I request from all of you. And we are good to go. So I believe that many of you are planning to take the IELTS in the very near future. Some of you are going to appear maybe in a month or so, maybe in a couple of months at best. Uh, Now, there are two broad categories of students who are, whom I usually encounter with. The first one, the first kind of student that I encounter with are the students who has never taken the exam before. So this is going to be the first time that they're going to appear for the exam. These students are usually very nervous about the test. They do not know the exact format. Maybe they get some information in bits and pieces from all over the place on the internet. Um, and usually these students are the ones who struggle a lot, let's say. Okay. Uh, I'm going to cater to your doubts, all the questions that comes to your mind for the students who are going to appear for the first time. But a majority of my students are those students who have already appeared for the IELTS before, and somehow they have not been able to get their desired band score. Um, I've come across students who have taken the test maybe 3 or 4 times before, and still they are struggling with their band score. They are not able to get their desired band score that they need in order to apply for Canada PR, let's say. That is the most common aim for all of most of the Indian students, at least. Even from students from abroad will be doing the same thing. Okay, now the reason, let us diagnose the reason that why students are unable to get their desired band score as far as the IELTS exam is concerned. The major reason behind this is that most of the students think that if they somehow come to know some tips and tricks of the exam, they will be able to crack it. If there is an institution out there, and mind you that I'm running an IELTS institution, being an owner of an IELTS institution, I'm telling you this right in front of you on your face that many students think that there is an institution out there who is going to help them with some tips, with some shortcuts, and with the help of that, if they go and appear on the examination, on the day of their examination, they are going to clear the test. I think this sets a very wrong precedence, and this is a complete false notion. It is simply not possible. Let us say that I share with you some 500 odd tips about how to get better scores or better results in your IELTS. I don't think that you will be able to retain all the information that I'm going to pass on to you on the day of your examination. The time is very limited. You only get to spend 2 hours and 40 minutes for your listening, reading, and writing. And of course, speaking is a test which you need to do right in front of an examiner who is going to judge you. Remember that. It sounds very intimidating, especially for those people whose forte is not English. So you are sitting in front of an examiner, you don't know that person, and that person is keenly listening to you, every word that comes out of your mouth. And I can give you some 50 tips about how to speak better English. But believe me, trust me on this, that on the day of your examination, you will not be able to retain even one tip. If you retain some of the tips, it's a great achievement, but mostly students are not able to retain all those tips because you have got a very limited amount of time. I don't know how many of you know this or not, but your speaking test is going to last only for 12 to 14 minutes. 14 minutes, not even 15. It's as precise as that. It is not going to extend beyond 14 minutes. So in those 12 to 14 minutes, you have to somehow convince the examiner by telling him or by letting him or her know uh, that you are a good user of the language, English. That is what you're talking about. How many of you are going to be able to retain the tips, the tricks, the shortcuts, the methods that the coaching institutions usually tend to tell you, and based on that, you're going to clear the exam? That is one of the major reasons why people are not able to get their desired band score. And this also applies to all the students who are going to appear for the exam for the first time. You will not be able to clear the exam if you don't know the language. You have to know the language. You need to be able to use the language to a certain extent, which clearly tells the examiner that, yes, this person is a good user of the language and they should be uh, graded with band 7, 7.58, 8.59, so on, right? So it only happens when you know the language. Now, there are certain things which are important. As far as the tips and tricks are concerned, there are certain points which are very important, in my opinion. For example, let's say that there is a fill in the blank question, and the answer to that blank is a noun, is a proper noun. Now, what is a proper noun? This may be a question to many of my students. What exactly do you mean by proper noun? A proper noun is a noun which is going to tell you the name of a person or a place. Okay. So if it is the name of a person or if it is the name of a place, the first letter of that word is going to be written in capital letter. If it is a proper noun, it has to start with a capital letter. For example, if your name is Abhishek, for example, Mark for that matter, your first letter of the name has to begin with uh, a capital letter. Now, on the day of your examination, suppose the answer to one of the fill in the blank question is a proper noun, and somehow you do not use a capital letter, you will lose a point for that. In order to avoid such circumstances, usually a tip is shared by all the institutions, and I'm talking about genuine institutions, not any Tom, Dick, Harry institution. An institution will share this information with the students that please write all your answers in capital letters. This will eliminate the possibility of any confusion that may arise in the mind of the students. And this is allowed in the IELTS. You can write all the answers in block letters if you wish to. And it is not considered to be wrong. It is not considered to be rude as compared to the modern day chat messages exchange that we do. So if you are, for example, if you are WhatsApping somebody, I don't know whether even that is a verb or not, WhatsApping, but still, let's say, okay, just for the sake of this information, let's say that it is a verb. And if you are sending a WhatsApp message to somebody and you are writing in all the letters in capital, it is considered to be rude and it is understood that you are shouting at that person. For that matter, if you are sending an email to a colleague and if you have written all the letters in capital, It is not the proper email etiquette. Uh, okay, that being set aside, let's talk about the IELTS. It is going to be considered a correct practice if you write all the letters in capitals in the IELTS. Likewise, in IELTS writing, for example, there is a set format for that. You need to follow a particular format. For example, let's say, let's go ahead with an example so that I'm able to make you understand this concept very clearly. Let's say there is a question in your writing, in your essay writing, wherein they have asked you, tell me the advantages and disadvantages of the internet. Okay. Um, Now, the question is asking you to write down the advantages and disadvantages of the internet. And let's say there is a follow-up question along with this main question, which tells you, or which is asking you that, do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So do you feel that the advantages of the internet outweighs the disadvantages? Okay. Now your opinion has been sought. Now you need to express your opinion for this. How do you do that? There is a set format for that. You need to follow a set format. The first paragraph, in the first paragraph, it has to be an introduction paragraph where you are going to paraphrase the entire question in your own language. Then you have to give a statement which is going to be the theme, the central statement of your essay. What is the theme? What is the central message of the entire essay? The central message here is that they have asked you, the question is asking you whether the advantages of the internet outweighs the disadvantages. What exactly is your opinion about this? You need to mention this at the last line of the introduction paragraph. Then you need to build two body paragraphs wherein you are going to discuss the advantages versus the disadvantages, citing some examples. And after writing the two paragraphs, you need to conclude, you need to put a conclusion paragraph at the end of the second body paragraph, after the second body paragraph. Now, this is a format which needs to be followed. IELTS has a very clear criteria of grading your essay. Okay, so if some student is not particularly aware of the format of the test, if they are not aware of what needs to be done and what needs to be avoided, then yes, there is a good possibility that you will lose your scores. But at the same time, it is not only about your tips and tricks that people lay such emphasis upon. It is a language test. Please bear this particular fact in your mind, that this is a language test. You need to know the language in order to get your desired band score. Now, how do you improve your language? Let's say you are an intermediate user of the language, a B1 or B2 user of the language. Then at that point, it is imperative for you to spend time into learning the language before you book your exam. And this is where exactly a good trainer comes into the picture. They are going to tell you that these are the places, these are the exact spots where you are lacking, and these are the improvements. So we need to focus onto the direction wherein you are going to be very specific of where you are going, how you are going to that through that journey, and how you are going to improve. So this is how basically the preparation for the test should look like. Instead of the fact that we make a bunch of students to sit in front of us and treat every one of them equally and tell them that, you know what, let's share a few tips, let's do a few tricks, and At the end of the day, you can go ahead and appear for the exam. It is never going to work that way. It never works. Unfortunately, it doesn't. And there's a lot of hard work that needs to be done if you are not an advanced user of the language, because then, and there is a time limit, there is a time constant that is there in front of you. So you need to race against time in order to get yourself prepared. In order to do that, um, you need to put in a lot of hard work, because there is a lot of undiscovered places that you need to cover in order to go and appear for the IELTS examination, right? How do we do that? There's a there's a very famous analogy amongst my students, which I frequently make. In order to know or understand a language, the first and foremost thing that you need to develop is the ability to listen to that language. You need to listen to that language as much as possible, as for as long as possible. Expose yourself to English programs as if that is where your life is hanging upon. Okay, your life is depending upon um, an English program. So forget about every other content that is there, that is out there on the internet. Find educational content, good quality content over the internet. YouTube has a huge repository of good quality content. You just need to find out. Okay. And there's also one more thing that I need to tell you over here. Many students lack general knowledge about many topics. They're simply not interested into many things. And I've come across such students. If you are one such student, if you're one such person who is only concerned about your own particular field, let's say you are a computer engineer or you are a real estate broker, whatever you are, or as a professional, if you are only concerned with your uh, own profession, then you are doing a disservice to yourself, because there could be a good possibility of a topic that may be thrown at you, and you know nothing about that topic. So how are you going to write about that particular topic? Even if, let's say that you have developed your English skills, still you will find it very difficult to write on a topic which is completely unknown to you. So please go ahead and find educational content on YouTube. And likewise, there are many other channels wherein you can uh, spend your time watching uh, English content which imparts education. Believe me, I have come across students to whom I needed to teach what is an equator. And jokingly, I had to tell them that, you know what, I'm going to charge you twice, because now I'm your geography teacher as well. So I'm just citing an example over here, and these are some of the basic things that we need to know in order to formulate ideas, brilliant ideas about the topics that will be thrown at us during the examination. It could happen for your writing, it could happen for your speaking test as well. Uh, Now, as I was telling you, please listen to the language as much as possible. Spend time listening to the language. And the next best thing that you can do is to start reading. When you start reading, please underline all those words which are unknown to you. The meanings are unknown to you. Find out, make an effort to underline those words, write it down on a piece of paper, find the meanings of those words, write it down, and then try to use those words in your own sentences. That is the way you're going to learn the language more quickly as compared to many other students. So listening, then reading. For speaking, unfortunately, I do not have any passive method to make you a good speaker of English. You need to be very active as far as this particular module is concerned. If you have a family member who can speak English, please speak with him or her as much as possible. If you have a friend, you can do that. And I would insist that try to speak in English with each and every person that you come across. It is going to make you feel more comfortable in using the language. It could be your grocery store owner, right? So even if you are going to buy out some groceries, please go ahead and try to speak in English with that person. I know that person might be in the Indian context, that person might be a little bit, I don't know, uncomfortable maybe, if you're speaking in English with them. But so what? You want to learn that language, be selfish about this goal, and try to speak with as many people as possible. And this is what exactly I do in my classes, that I invite all my students. I make a session which is thrown open to all the students, and I will give you some topics which are IELTS related, and then you need to speak about those topics. And just imagine if you are speaking it week after week, twice a week we do these sessions, and if you're using your speaking skills, it will definitely enhance your speaking ability. And the last one, of course, is writing. So many of my students are working professionals, and the last time that they have written something was maybe 7 or 8, maybe even 10 years ago. And the practice of writing has completely been eroded from your system. Now, do not imagine that, suddenly on the day of your examination, you can go ahead, sit in front of of a massive, huge of humanity, of a massive swarm of humanity, and you can uh, write about any abstract topic. It is simply not going to happen. So what you need to do over here is to practice writing. And the more you write, the thought process would become more and more clear. It will become clearer with the amount of writing that you put in. This is how you're going to improve the language. And I hope that I have been able to motivate you in the correct direction, the correct path which you need to follow in order to uh, crack or get your desired band score as far as the IELTS is concerned. It is not the kind of a mountain which people think of it. And unfortunately, I've seen many students who think of the IELTS as if it is a life-changing uh, uh, decision for many students. Yes, it is important if you are planning to move abroad, if you're planning to go ahead and work abroad, it is very important, but it is not that difficult to achieve if you have the correct mind frame, if you have the correct information, and if you have the correct guidance. Provided, combined with that, if you have the motivation to invest the time and energy into learning the language rather than trying to find a shortcut which is going to bring you to success. There are no shortcuts to this. And this is what I'm needed to say on this video for today. I hope I'm clear. I hope I have been able to make my point. I hope I have not been intimidating to you. Um, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me on the comment section. And I would also put my email ID for you, my social links for you, so that you can follow me there. You can ask your questions over there. And I would be happy to answer all your queries, your questions. And before I conclude, I'm going to start my next batch in the month of December. So please feel free to enroll there and get the maximum benefit for your IELTS coaching. Thank you, and see you soon in my next video. Bye-bye.